All right, let's do some chosen reaction. Here we go. Season... Whichever season we're in, episode 1.
Yes?
You were 20 days past your deadline for this quarter's tribute. Your collector has transferred your case to the Roman office. Are you able to pay your tribute penalty now?
I filed an extension in the month
Take that as a no. By decree of Quintus, Honorable Praetor of Capernaum, I will remand you into custody.
I'm very sorry, I didn't realize.
Turn around.
Sir, I didn't realize.
So it's
May I
like
request
Matthew's
an extension
dad.
of just 5 days?
So this isn't... You wouldn't find this in the Bible. This is extra biblical.
Who is it?
Everything's fine, Elisheba. Please, I beg you. Adonai,
He's not here.
I can settle this, Lucius. There's actually been a mistake.
What do you mean? You told me to come.
I'm aware, but I realized the timelines were miscalculated. I will clear it up, thank you.
You miscalculated.
I received inaccurate information, and it's being corrected right now. I will handle this. It would be best if we went to our next house, and I will meet you at the booth in 1 hour.
So again, none of that like actually took place in the Bible. It's just sort of part of the story. But it's to teach a lesson, so let's see what it is.
Are you?
It isn't prudent to discuss this right now, Abba. We don't have...
First, the shame of your choice. And now, you're actually my collector.
Matthew? What are you doing here?
Your son is our Publicanus.
Matthew, no!
He sent a soldier to your home.
I'm sorry. I didn't want you to know. I didn't choose this district.
You chose this job. The Romans never forced you into it.
The Jews hated
You
tax
chose to
collectors
apply.
because
You
it was their own
chose to
people
betray.
working on
Chose a
behalf of
secure
a foreign
future.
government
You are called
to
to
take
trust
money.
in
And
Adonai with all your heart. And not
oftentimes what they would do is they would say you owe the government $5. They would say, oh, you owe them $10. And they couldn't argue. They wouldn't know. And they would keep 5 and give Rome 5. And so it just was a terrible job to have, especially if you're a Jewish person, collecting money for the Roman Empire, an oppressive government that the Jews never wanted to be under in the first place, for them. And so Matthew, a tax collector, like the fact that Jesus hung out with tax collectors, that's why it always says that. He hung out with tax collectors and sinners. He's just like the worst person to hang out with. And so this is just sort of like diving into what it might have been like for Matthew himself, who became one of the disciples and one of the gospel writers. So let's see what happens.
lean on your own
I have trusted.
understanding.
Can you name one thing Adonai has done for our people? In 100 years? 500?
You.
A traitor and a blasphemer.
Well, you owe your government 2 months of tribute.
I will bring in a payment by the end of the week.
You've missed 2 payments. I was hoping Lucius could convince you, but I will no longer protect you.
I don't want your protection.
Then you have 24 hours, Abba.
Don't call me Abba.
Face, please.
What?
Ellie, cover the windows. Put on your veil. We will sit Shiva for 7 days.
It's like saying, you're dead to me. Our son is dead. Now this is a flashback.
I have no son.
Can you imagine what that actually feel like?
You have heard that it was said to those of old,
Now it's present, like
you
Jesus
shall
preaching.
not murder. And whomever murders will be liable to judgment.
This is the Sermon on the Mount.
But I say to you, everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. So if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First, be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift. Therefore, I tell you...
All right, let's pause that right there. Let's dive into that. Let's see what parts of this are biblical, because like what that story just reflected, part of it was extra biblical, like I described. Like they're just sort of elaborating on the story to show what the humanity is like and what the family dynamic is like. But we're going to turn to Matthew chapter 5. This is where the Sermon on the Mount starts, and let's just take a look at how much of what we just saw is actually biblical. And, really it would be the portion at the end where Jesus is teaching. It's recorded in Matthew's gospel, which is probably why the people that created The Chosen kind of played it out that way. So this is the Sermon on the Mount. It's Matthew 5, 6, and 7. And right here in the middle of chapter 5, it says almost word for word what was quoted in the show. It says, Matthew 5, verse 21, "You've heard that it was said, to those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment. But I say to you," that's a refrain that Jesus keeps coming back to. He says, "But I say to you, everyone who's angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to counsel. Whoever says, 'You fool,' will be liable to hell, the hell of fire." Now watch this, verse 23. This is crazy. It says, "So if you're offering your gift at the altar, and there you remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift." This is almost word for word what was quoted in the show. So that's all entirely biblical. That portion of Jesus there preaching in the Sermon on the Mount, using the story of Matthew to describe it and how it would play out in humanity. And what's so crazy about the passage is that what's one of the most important things that we should do between us and God? We should worship him, right? We should come to him. I mean, like, that's most important, right? Love God. And yet Jesus' teaching is, if you're coming to love God, to worship God, and you remember that another human being has something against you, you are to pause your coming and pause your worship of God and go and be reconciled with your brother. It's an absolutely revolutionary picture of the relationship between what I would call the vertical and the horizontal. The relationship between our worship and our interaction with God and our relationship and interaction with other humans. It shows the heart of God cares so much about our reconciliation with other people, forgiveness with other people, that he would even ask us to pause coming to him in worship in order to go and be reconciled. And so in the show, all of this is like churning inside of Matthew, who was a tax collector and had this issue with his parents, so much so that they were basically like, "You're dead to us," and it spurred him on to go and be reconciled. But what is explicitly in the Bible is a principle that remains for us today. So I challenge you, even right now, if there's anybody in your world that has something against you, or that you're offended at, or you have unforgiveness towards, we need to go and right those wrongs and right those relationships. Now, you can't always fix everything. The Bible says, so far as up to you, live at peace with all people. But you at least have to try. It's so important to Jesus that he asks us to even pause our worship to go and be reconciled. So, do you need to do that work? And if so, you should go and do it right now.